Welcome back, my students. Today I'll start with our next unit, that is Unit 2, Diseases. And here first chapter is some defense measures against diseases, mainly with immunity and immunization. Now, before I go to the chapter in details, let us first of all know what is diseases or what are diseases. If we break the word, it will be easier to remember about the meaning of disease. We can say it, dis is. That means lack of comfort in the body. Whenever any part of your body do not function properly, then as a result what happens? The person or we feel uncomfortable. It may be any organ, it may be any part of your body, both external and internal, that causes lack of comfort in the body. Generally we term this one as disease. So these sufferings, it may be physical, it may be mental, or it may be social. Now physical diseases, you can easily understand any kind of fever, body pain, if you get any kind of injury, if there is any source in the body, that is termed as physical disease. Mental disease such as insomnia, depression, okay, such type of diseases are termed as mental diseases. And what about social diseases? Social diseases, it may be maladjustment within the family or outside the family, maybe with your neighbors and all. If you cannot adjust properly, that may be termed as social disease. Now, if we classify diseases into main categories, it can be classified into communicable and non-communicable diseases. The word communicable in communicable disease came from to communicate. That means it transmits through various agents from one person to another. These are also known as vector-borne diseases. And non-communicable diseases are those diseases that doesn't transmit from one person to another. It occurs mainly due to the lack of or due to the malfunctioning of our body parts or organs. Our body has several organ systems. In any system, if any particular organ stops its function, then it may create problem throughout the body, because we know that all these systems are interrelated. Now, communicable disease examples, we are facing a great problem now with a disease that is communicable disease only, that is COVID-19. Several other communicable diseases are there, like measles, diphtheria, cholera, smallpox, chickenpox, influenza. So many diseases are there that are termed as communicable disease. Whereas non-communicable disease examples, some of the examples are like heart attack, cancer, diabetes. Okay, these are termed as non-communicable diseases that are not transmitted from person to person. Now, how to prevent diseases? To prevent any disease, we must know at least the causes of the disease and the ways in which they spread. What are the measures available for prevention of such diseases, and what are the signs and symptoms of such disease? Any disease can be cured if it is detected at an early stage. For that, it is required early diagnosis. And for early diagnosis, it is very important to have regular medical checkup. Next, let us go to chapter 1, that is some defense measures against diseases, immunity and immunization. Whenever any germs, microorganisms, that is commonly known as pathogens, enters into our body, disease causing organisms are known as pathogens. So whenever such pathogens enters into our body, they causes disease in our body. To prevent such entries, easy entries of the pathogens, our body has some natural defenses against the entry of such disease producing germs. These physical barriers are skin, then lymphoid tissues, tears, saliva, nasal secretion, and digestive juices. These are some of the physical barriers which prevents the entry of disease causing germs into our body. Our skin is a great barrier. You have seen whenever any bruises occurs, if there is any injuries in the skin, the outer layer of the skin, when it is removed, if you don't apply any antiseptic lotion, there may be sore formation, pus formation may occur. Why this occurs? Because the germs develop on it. Anyhow, germs entered into that part of the body and starts causing problems. Similarly, lymphoid tissues, we know that lymph organs washes our tissues, cleans all the dirty materials along with the microorganisms. Whenever any foreign bodies enters into our eyes, immediately tears starts coming out. That tears washes the outer surface of your eyes, including the germs. Whenever any microorganisms, of course in small quantity, enters into our mouth, if our immunity power is strong, then saliva can kill it instantly. Many microorganisms are unable to enter into our body when it passes through the nasal cavities, because these nasal secretion, in that nasal secretion, these germs get stuck. And of course, whenever it enters into our digestive system, the digestive juices with various types of chemicals kills all the germs. So these are the some physical barriers against the entry of the disease causing germs. Now let us see how does the defense mechanism work. Whenever any disease producing germs enters the body, our body sets up its own defenses. Whenever germs enters into our body produces a type of chemicals that is termed as antibodies to kill these germs. And these germs, the dead germs, these are swallowed by white blood cells. So white blood cells, it is termed as the soldiers of our body, which prevents the entry of disease. If immunity power is strong, if the body is healthy, white blood corpuscles or white blood cells have the maximum power against the entry of disease causing germs. Now how these things occurs, the mechanism of all these things, how antibodies are formed, we'll discuss later on. First of all, let us see how defense mechanism works. Now the main function of the white blood cells, at that stage it is known as leukocytes. The main function of the white blood cells or leukocytes in the blood is to help defend the body against sudden attack of germs. For this purpose, the leukocytes, the white blood cells, changes its shape, leaves the blood vessel and go into the tissues where these microorganisms are present, the germs are present. So that stage, whenever they changes their shape and comes out from the blood vessels, they are termed as phagocytes. We have studied how amoeba captures its food particles. Now here, and that capturing or the mode of obtaining food in amoeba, it is termed as phagocytosis. Here, same thing. These white blood cells, they engulf the invading germs and block their spread to other organs of the body. As a result, what happens? The infection gets sealed off and cannot transmit to other parts of the body. Now, if the body is weak, doesn't have proper immunity power, that in that case white blood cells cannot fight against the invading germs, and the germs inside the body multiplies rapidly and starts causing problem in the body, which we term as disease. Our next topic is how are antibodies formed. In your biology classes, you have studied how antigens and antibodies are formed, or what is antigen and antibodies. Antibodies are a type of chemicals that is produced by our body, which is very important for the immunity power, for the defense of our body against the invading germs. Now, the production of antibodies is one of the most important. Whenever any germs enters into our body, it secretes a certain type of chemicals into our body, which is termed as antigens. Sensing these chemical, that is antigens, our body produces another type of chemicals to neutralize these antigens. And these chemicals, whatever produced by our body, it is termed as antibodies. And these antibodies helps us to protect from diseases. These antibodies attack the germ and neutralizes them. Now, production of antibodies in our body, it depends upon the state of health, mainly on the nutritional status. If our body is malnourished or undernourished, then this production of antibodies hampers. Our body is unable to, at that condition, our body is unable to provide proper amount of antibodies to neutralize these antigens. And remember one thing, whenever antigens are more in quantity in our body, we fall sick. Now, the protective foods, namely proteins and vitamins along with minerals, control the ability of the body to produce antibodies. A person who is in, I told you earlier, a person who is in poor health, or generally it is called undernourished, or in fatigue, and with severe physical or mental strain, cannot fight the germs properly. As a result, what happens? The body resistance gets lower. At that time, our body cannot resist any type of infection. Now, that condition is known as susceptibility. The lack of resistance to a disease is called susceptibility. You might have seen that some people fall sick with a type of disease frequently. So that times we used to call that person is susceptible to such disease. Our next topic is, what is immunity? The disease causing germs are present in everywhere, in and around you. We are fortunate enough that all these microorganisms are not harmful. Some of them causes disease in our body. So these are called germs or pathogens. Disease causing germs, whenever it enters into our body, whenever we are exposed in a condition where such disease causing germs are present in a large quantity, then our body is at risk. Now, we all are exposed to such disease causing germs in our lifetime. But we are not falling sick every time. Only a few of them can cause the disease. This is because the reason behind that, our defense system. Diseases do not develop unless too many germs are present. Few amount of germs is always entering into our body, and it gets killed by our defense system. The defense system I told you at the beginning of this chapter: skin, saliva, lymph glands, tears, gastric juice, all these things, and of course our white blood cells and antibodies. So this defense organism neutralizes these disease causing germs. But whenever these germs enters into our body in a large quantity, and if our body is not healthy, malnourished or undernourished, then this defense mechanism fails to protect our body against these germs. Generally, diseases do not develop unless too many germs are present. Now, immunity is that condition. Immunity is that condition existing in our body which protects our body against certain diseases, which means the resistance to germs of certain disease. For example, now if a number of people are exposed to a particular infection, okay, if a number of people are exposed to a particular infection, some may be infected with the disease and some others may not. Those who are not infected are termed to be resistant to the disease or immune to it. This is brought about by certain substances known as antibodies. So that's all about immunity. Now, what are the different types of immunity? Generally, there are two types of immunity. One is natural or inborn, and second one is acquired immunity. Natural immunity, it is the resistance offered by the body under normal conditions without any particular infection or external stimulation. Whenever we take any kind of vaccination, that is termed as external stimulation. Any kind of vaccination or any kind of inoculation, that is external one. Or whenever any germs enters into our body produces antibodies. Some antibodies remains in our body for such infection, to prevent such infection in future. So that is not the normal condition. That is not the natural immunity. We will come to it in later part, whenever we will discuss about the acquired immunity. Now, again I am telling what is natural immunity. Natural immunity is the resistance offered by the body under normal condition. It may be either possessed from birth or acquired during growth. Naturally. Acquired during growth naturally. That is also naturally. Maybe from food, maybe from your lifestyle, your body condition, all this. Now, all babies that have fed on their mother's milk have a natural immunity to most diseases, but only for few months after they are born. Such immunity power gets broken down in case of malnutrition and starvation. So such immunity, whatever we are getting from mother's milk, it lasts only for few months. It gets broken down if that child is under malnutrition or starvation. So this is all about natural immunity. Next one is acquired immunity. Again, acquired immunity are of two types: active acquired immunity and passive acquired immunity. First of all, we will discuss about the active acquired immunity. Active acquired immunity is called when immunity, or it is called active when it has been brought about by having had the diseases, that is, by a prior infection. As I told you earlier, whenever our body comes in contact with any kind of disease producing germs which causes antigens into our body, to counterattack, to neutralize these antigens, our body produces a type of chemicals which is termed as antibodies. That antibodies neutralizes antigens, prevents our body from getting any kind of infection, and some of the antibodies remains in our body. So next time whenever same germs enters into our body can kill it immediately. For example, an attack of chicken pox or mumps, whenever such disease occurs into our body, it may not repeat twice, provided if too many germs enters into our body, if your immunity is less power, the immunity power is of less, if you are in a malnutrition condition or in starvation, then it may repeat. But in generally, such disease never occurs twice in our life. Again, active acquired immunity, it may develop into our body with slight infection from repeated exposure to a disease. Another way active acquired immunity we may get due to inoculation or vaccination. Due to inoculation or vaccination with killed or inactive, which is made harmless germs or their byproducts, that is toxin. Now what is vaccination? Vaccination is nothing but the small amount of that disease causing germs, after making it inactive or harmless, enters into our body, sensing that our body produces antibodies against that disease. Same thing is about COVID-19 vaccination. That vaccination, whatever immunity power it will produce into our body, that will be active acquired immunity. Now, An immunity is called natural acquired immunity when a previous attack of the disease gives certain amount of immunity from another attack of same disease. Already we have discussed, as in the case of chickenpox. Okay, it is natural acquired immunity. And in second case, it is called artificial acquired immunity, when it is due to inoculation of certain material containing antigens. In second case, that means whenever we are getting any kind of vaccination or inoculation, the antibodies that are developed in our body, it is due to certain material, that is antigens, little bit antigens introduced into our body. Our body produces a type of immunity power that is termed as artificial acquired immunity, which gives protection against future exposure to that particular disease for a certain period. Vaccination or inoculation produces immunity power, that's true, but that immunity power is for a very short period. It is not long lasting. For example, you can say vaccination against diphtheria, whooping cough, and tetanus. These examples are given in your book, but very recent example you can take from our prevailing condition, that is COVID-19 infection. To save our life, to save our community, to save our society, we must take such vaccination to prevent ourselves from getting infection. But that is also for short period of time. Now, again, that is why you may heard that it is termed that even after taking vaccination, we have to wear mask, clean our hands, and maintain social distance. Why? Because these vaccinations won't work again if there is too many germs in your body or enters in your body. Then this vaccination won't work properly. Okay, so this goes about that artificial acquired immunity. Next is passive immunity. It is termed passive immunity, or it is called passive immunity when antibodies produced in some other person or animal. Antibodies are produced in some other person or animal. Whenever our body fails to produce any kind of immunity due to poor health, due to undernourished condition, malnourished condition, if the body is so sick that it is unable to produce any kind of antibodies, in that case the antibodies are produced in some other body, or it may be animals also, of the same or another species. Okay, now again I am telling, passive immunity is the antibodies, or it is called passive immunity when the antibodies are produced in some other person or animal of the same or another species are introduced into the body to fight the disease. Okay, now in this case the immunity lasts only for a short duration. Again, in this case also, the immunity lasts only for a short duration. This is helpful when antibodies are not present in the body. For example, let us take, for example, a mother supplies antibodies to her fetus. Inoculation of blood containing immune bodies that is known as antibodies are introduced into the mother body. Now a fetus, when it is inside mother's womb, unable to produce any kind of antibodies. So it gets antibodies from the mother's body. In that case, tetanus, for example, let us take, for example, the tetanus inoculation, the diphtheria inoculation. These things are given to mother so that the fetus gets immunity power against such diseases immediately after born. It won't get affected with such diseases. So, as in case of tetanus, diphtheria, when an individual is given a serum from the people conversing from a disease to make the disease less severe. To make the disease less severe. Inoculation of serum taken from animals which were artificially immunized. These serums, this inoculation of the serum, it is collected from other person or animals which were artificially immunized. Then antibodies are formed in other bodies and same antibodies are introduced into the affected person or the person to provide immunity power. So what is that immunity? That is termed as passive immunity. Again, in some cases, passive immunization, very important, In some cases, passive immunization, certain violent reactions like asthma, migraine, that is headache, migraine, eczema, and skin rashes may occur in the individual. Okay, so such reaction, it is termed as an allergic reaction. That is why before giving any kind of vaccination, certain vaccination, not any kind of certain vaccination, doctors used to perform some pre-tested. If that allergic reaction occurs, then it is not given. We will come to that again in later part. Again, in some other cases, there will not be any violent reaction. After giving first dose, there will not be any violent reaction for the first dose. But the individual is rendered intolerant to second dose. That means after giving second dose, it may start showing some reaction. First dose, no reaction. Second dose, there may be some reaction. Now, if there is any reaction in second dose only, not in the first dose, in second dose only, that condition is termed as anaphylaxis. Anaphylaxis, which is characterized by severe shock followed by skin rashes, joint pain, swelling occurs after some days. as I told you earlier, to prevent such condition, doctors, they take adequate precaution, okay, by giving a small test dose in the skin and studying the reaction to it. They'll observe. They'll give little bit small dose of it in the skin and they will observe if there is any reaction or not. If there is no reaction, then the person will be vaccinated with that vaccination. Another type of immunity, very interesting. Another type of immunity which is known as herd immunity, HERD, herd immunity. What is that? Herd immunity, when a group of people or community as a whole are immune to a particular disease, then herd immunity, when a group of people or community as a whole are immune to a particular disease. This happens when more than 70% of the people comprising the community are immunized against a disease. Mind that, 70% or more. If 70% or more people comprising the community are immunized in a particular locality, particular community, if more than 70% people are vaccinated against certain diseases, then other 30%, although susceptible, they didn't get any kind of vaccination, but yet they enjoy the freedom from that disease by virtue of their belongings to that group. Just because of that 70% or more have taken this vaccination, the remaining 30%, even though they are susceptible to such disease, they enjoy the freedom from the disease by virtue of their belongings to that group. But in the present case of COVID-19, no one should take such chance that will get this herd immunity. We should always try to get vaccinated as early as possible. Now it is started with 18 plus. Very shortly that vaccination will come for you also under 18 plus. Under 18. Okay. Now in continue with this herd immunity, it is therefore more important than an individual immunity. Herd immunity can be produced by protecting the individuals or by weeding out the susceptible by disease or death. Now, in spite of all these measures, for different types of immunity, different types of vaccination, inoculation, power, medicines and all, if the disease is developed, the doctors have many remedies nowadays to help the body defense against that disease. And these are called antibiotics. You may have heard about it. Antibiotics. Now, antibiotics have proved to be a great value in a number of diseases. But any antibiotics need to be used very cautiously, as some antibiotics they may cause some health hazards if it is used improperly. Okay, so we must take, whenever we will take any kind of antibiotics, we must take it very cautiously and timely, as or according to the prescription given by a qualified doctor. We know that prevention is better than cure. Yes, prevention is always better than cure. Our health authorities have built up more defenses against diseases. Advances in medicines have made it possible to manufacture protective substances in the form of vaccines, which when injected into the body will afford protection against subsequent attack. Okay, so this goes about the different types of immunity. Next, what is immunization? Immunity, immunization. Immunity is the resistance power given to our body to fight against any kind of diseases. That is called immunity. Immunity is the, how will define immunity? Immunity is the resistance power given to our body. It may be naturally or artificially, to fight against the disease causing germs, to prevent our body from getting affected with the pathogenic microorganism. And immunization is the process of providing immunity power to the body. Immunizing agents are available to give protection against certain communicable diseases. Immunization plays a very important role in the prevention of these diseases. For example, let us take some example. Smallpox. Smallpox, as you know, smallpox is totally eradicated from our country. And it is possible only due to the process of vaccination. There was a program, that smallpox eradication program. Under this program, mass vaccination given in the affected areas. And as a result, our country now, it is totally free from such disease. The disease like smallpox. Same program is now going on to remove polio disease from our country under the program of pulse polio immunization. Again, about all these things we'll study in our next chapter, that is National Health Program. Okay. Now, in a book, you'll find that a national immunization schedule is given. Here you'll find at the time of birth to up to 16 years, up to 16 years, periodically, what are the vaccination you have to take All the list has been given. Immediately after birth, what types of vaccination, after 6 weeks, after 10 weeks, after 14 weeks. So likewise, 9 to 12 months, 16 to 24 months, 5 to 6 years, 10 years, 16 years. No, the list of this such vaccination name is given. So whatever vaccines you have to give at what age, details are mentioned over there. Go through this table, very important, and you have to remember this. Lastly, we'll discuss about toxoid. What is toxoid? You have heard about that toxoid. Tetanus toxoid. Commonly we used to call TT injection or TT vaccination. That is, full form is tetanus toxoid. Now what is toxoid? Listen. Certain germs like diphtheria and tetanus produce poisons. Okay. Now when such germs are made harmless, okay, or which when made harmless are used for producing immunity. So such vaccines are termed as toxoid. Clear? So that's all about this chapter, immunity and immunization. Thank you. In next class, we'll do the next chapter. Till then, bye.